staff of Parliament without consultation with the clerk. This bill is therefore merely seeking to regularize our constitutional provisions. Mr. Speaker, the Davies report documents many breaches which occur in respect of the aforementioned. Hence, sir, this bill seeks to endorse the confidence shown in the Clerk of the National Assembly by the crafters and those members of this House who gave safe passage to our Constitution in its present form, by endorsing the Clerk of the National Assembly as the employer of the National Assembly. The report also highlighted that big difference in the institution of Parliament and the government department, which demands different treatment. This is as a result of the constitutional relationship which should exist between the executive and the legislature. This difference is recognized in several Commonwealth parliaments. For instance, India, Belize, Canada, US and the United Kingdom, to name a few. During April of this year, the Trinidad and Tobago government Trinidad and Tobago government saw it fit to invite experts from the Commonwealth Secretariat to provide a needs assessment of their parliament with emphasis on the present staffing procedures. Studies have shown, sir, that the effectiveness of parliaments are important to the efficient working of the democratic process of lawmaking, oversight of executive, financial control, etc. Where parliaments lack capacity through limited resources or inefficient expert staff to support members across Parliament's whole range of work, it inevitably affects the balance of power with the executive.
That will absolutely reject a bill coming from the opposition simply because sir, I wish to take this opportunity to reject that notion absolutely. That the government's position, sir, is based upon principles. The principle, the government's position as to whether they will support a bill which emanates from the opposition are as follows. One, support a bill emanating from the opposition which we feel is violative of the Constitution. Secondly, we will not support emanating from the opposition that we consider to be inconsistent with current executive policy or future executive policy. Thirdly, we will not support a bill which comes from the opposition, which we in the government who have financial responsibility of managing the financial resources, if we form the opinion to the minister, do not have the financial resources to enforce and execute that law. We cannot support that. And finally, we will not support a bill that we consider to be unnecessary. And those are the principles, sir, that will govern. That is the principles, sir. Those are the principles that will inform the government whether or not it will support a bill which comes from the opposition. The bill, sir, that is before this House, in the opinion of the government, is one, unnecessary, and secondly, unconstitutional. and therefore we cannot support the bill. And I give the reasons why. Sir, you will recall that I dispatched 2 letters to Your Honor and carbon copy to the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Member, Ms. Wanda Lawrence, and I believe my Honorable colleague, Mr. Kemrat Ramchatan, in which I detailed the reasons why the government will not support the bill. I wish to oralize, sir, and expand on those reasons now. Sir, the first rule in lawmaking, sir, and I get that from the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, and he's the expert, is to examine whether we need a law. That's the first thing. This law is intended to address. Now, my friend has spoken at length about the need for reform of the Parliament and the staffing arrangements and with powers of employment, etc., without identifying a single problem in respect of the current functioning of the Clerk of the National Assembly and the support staff. Not a single argument has she advanced as to why, what part of the clerk, whether the staff here are inadequate, whether they are incompetent, whether they are inefficient. But we are passing a law that will create a whole new regime of how staff is going to be hired. Sir, there is a booklet distributed by the Australian Parliament. It's a legislation handbook. A legislation handbook printed and distributed by the Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet of Canberra, Australia. And it says the following in relation to legislation. It says, and I quote, sir, under paragraph chapter, departments should give careful consideration to whether legislation is actually needed or whether administrative action would be sufficient. That's the first point that they make in Australia. Secondly, they say legislation should not be proposed simply to give matter visibility. The limited drafting resources of the Office of Parliamentary Counsel and the time available for government business in Parliament must be used for proposals which cannot proceed without legislation. Now, I don't believe that any government, and of course this government, will be opposed to any initiative that will strengthen in an administrative way the current capacity of the Clerk's Office of the National Assembly. But whether we want to do that by legislation is the position with which I take umbrage. So, sir, legislation first.
So, Attorney General, have you checked to see what how the clerk's relationship vis-a-vis the assemblies in Trinidad and Tobago?
I'm getting to that, sir. I'm getting to that. I'm getting to